Number 6. Wow, we are zooming through this schedule here. And we're going to be doing the capability audit. Um, and our instructor again is certified LOPT facilitator, Bev Greene. So Bev, you're on. We'll meet.
Good evening. Week 6, that's amazing. That is truly amazing. So I need to share my screen. And, okay, here we go again. Everything being fussy. Sorry about that. One of the things, while I figure out where it went. Okay, now my Zoom is gone. There I am. One of the interesting things about this course is that it is probably my most favorite thing that I've done. I think it's the course that probably clicked the most with me, and I think one of the reasons is I had no idea how easy it could be to really understand your course. Or any organization you're in, but it was such a wake-up moment for me to say, wow, there's better ways than second guessing who would be best for this, and that is to actually do it a little scientifically and figure out, for whatever it is you're looking for, who the best people would be to teach, learn, bring along, whatever. So this one is near and dear to my heart, and like David had said, a lot of the paperwork you'll see says chapter membership audit. They have changed it to chapter capability audit. So one of the things we're going to, okay, there we go. The learning objectives for tonight: impact of willingness and ability in a chapter, the definitions of willingness and ability, 4 categories created by willingness and ability, how to lead each chapter, conduct a small sample chapter audit, and then an action plan, audit your chapter. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to use chat. There's a couple times where I'm just going to ask you a hypothetical question that you don't need to answer, because I'm assuming the answer is going to be yes. And then we're also going to have a breakout room later on in the session where you can actually practice this with people. We're doing 5 or 6 breakout rooms probably, it just depends. So the first thing we want to look at is the effective performance of any task. And it's made up of 2 areas: the ability of the person and the willingness to do the task. So the first hypothetical question is, how many have worked with people who had the skills to do the job, but were not willing to do it? Now, I'm going to assume everybody has a yes on that one. But I will ask you, what was the outcome of that? And if you'll chat, I would appreciate it. So if you've worked with people who had skills, but were not willing to do it, what was your opinion of how that worked? How well it worked? Failure, talk to them one-on-one and broke the task down to simple starting points. Task isn't completed or started, slow going at best. Okay. So those are people that had the skills, but were not willing to do it. Need to find someone else. There's a tough one. Okay, so the second question then is, how many have worked with people who are willing to do the job, but lack the skills? Again, I'm assuming that everyone's going to say, yeah, been there, done that. So again, I will ask, what was the outcome? And the outcome of people willing to do the job, but lacking the skills to get the job done. Failure, but sadder. End up doing it yourself, drafted an additional team member who has the skills. Some successes, but not full success. Incomplete or positive, no positive results. Find a person, a coach. Okay. So who would you prefer to work with? And I'm going to make that theoretical here. I am guessing, and chat if I'm wrong, that you would prefer to work with people that had the skills or not. so the ability, okay. How many have worked with people that are placeholders or warm bodies for a particular position? You can look at your board of directors for this one too. Probably everybody can raise their hand. Do they get the job done if they're just warm bodies? Likely not. Have you ever been in this position? And that's a personal question. So if you have your handout with you, I would like you to read the top of page 3. Before I go there, somebody want to unmute and read that? David? Starts with the chapter's effectiveness.
A chapter's effectiveness is fully dependent on the resources available. These resources must be carefully understood in order to make solid assignments. Neither ability nor willingness alone will create success. Ooh. Additionally, this assessment of ability and willingness must be made for each and every task assignment.
One more.
It is impossible for the leader to go it alone. Oop, they need a quote mark to finish that. Anyway, they need the team to fulfill tasks and roles to help the chapter thrive.
Okay, so ability, the definition, the experience, skills, tools to make judgments and carry out the actions required of the task. The definition of willingness is the desire, courage, and confidence to take on the responsibilities of the job. Willingness is often expressed in terms such as committed, want to, motivated, or interested. The desire, courage, and confidence to do the job. Willingness is more difficult to influence than ability. So, David, if you would read the last last paragraphs there.
Ability can be changed through training development. Willingness is an emotional decision and can be changed only by the individual. Many less skilled individuals with high willingness can outshine skilled individuals with low willingness. The driver in all successful activities is willingness. Willingness is more difficult to influence than ability.
Okay, so that contradicts what we said at the very beginning a little bit for some of us. People can be willing or unwilling at any time for a variety of reasons. So what are the reasons, aside from safety, and that's actually written in here before COVID, that a person may be unwilling to perform a task? If you will chat some answers there so we can see what you think. Again, the question is, what are reasons, aside from safety, that a person may be unwilling to perform a task? Other commitments, doesn't think he has the ability, they're already busy enough, knows he doesn't have the ability, fear of failure. Okay. Okay. They don't like it. There's a good reason. Not that into it. Okay. It's important for leaders to assess team members for the skills and abilities and the willingness they may bring to the tasks assigned. There's 4 combined skills and willingness that can predict performance from less than satisfactory to superior. And once again, we're going to have a quadrant. It is a favorite of some people we know. This tool can be used by leaders to assess individuals on the team. And as you watch this develop, you can think of your board or a team you're on or your entire chapter or course, however you want to consider this. But I'm going to ask you to speak out loud, if you don't mind, unmuting yourself for a moment to answer this question. What are some of the examples of chapter functions that could use, or course functions, that could use this tool to assess performance of individuals? Some examples are learning notes and words to a song, attendance at a community performance, selling tickets to an annual show. So if anybody would like to speak up or raise your hand, and David, if you can catch them raising their hand, excuse me. Some other ideas of chapter functions that could use a tool that you as a leader could use for a tool to assess performance of individuals? Anybody?
Be interested in knowing.
Can you mute your, oh, go ahead. Interested in knowing?
Connected. I'm so sad.
Did you try both?
No, it's not connecting me to their stuff.
Why?
I don't know. It's saying, it just keeps showing me this one picture.
Okay, we seem to have some audio issues. If you want to use chat for this then, again, what are some examples of chapter functions? Fundraising is one. Secretary is one. Other ideas of show production, chorus manager, handling and singing Valentine's, there's a huge one. I will add learning choreo to songs.
What are these people?
Being a board member. How about approaching people for membership? Music education, notes, words, musical leadership. And that may come down to something like you need an assistant director, not sure who to start with. So a good way to find it, decide who would be great to train for an assistant director. Here's one that I thought of that probably I wouldn't have thought of 6 months ago. Innovative activities for rehearsals. I think Zoom has pulled that out of a lot of us. It's a challenge to keep the rehearsals interesting if you're doing Zoom rehearsals. Making decisions, somebody said. Finding new section leaders. Okay, so we're going to talk about these 4 quadrants now. Zoom fatigue. There's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can help that. What we're going to do now is look at the quadrants here. And you see from left to right, we have low to high willingness. And from bottom to top, we have low to high skills. Of course, the bottom left is low on skill, low on willingness. Top right is high on skill and high on willingness. Please understand I did not name these sections. I'm going off my notes that were prepared for whoever presented this class. So if you have an opinion, you can pass it on, but it's not me that did these. So the first one, which is low on willingness and low on skills, can be called the squeaky wheels, okay? And I'm gonna ask you to chat here. What's it like to have people in this quadrant? And what are your experiences with people who are squeaky wheels? We've all had them in the chapter. And maybe they were talking too much at board meetings. Energy drains, okay. Anybody else? Rock throwers, okay. They should be listened to. They complain but are not willing to help fix things. Interrupters, all right. It's typically the squeaky wheels, those who comment from the sidelines and have unrealistic expectations. They're usually unable and unwilling to do anything about the issue. Suggestions are usually thrown over the fence for someone else to deal with. Question for you. How easy is it to train an unwilling attitude? Can you train an unwilling attitude? Does someone want to train an unwilling attitude? That's a tough one. Only if they want to be, okay. Do you have folks like this in your chapter? Ask the unwilling attitude person to restate the problem in their own words, okay. Fortunately, because this entire exercise is with specific problems, folks may be more willing and able for other tasks. So when you think of the squeaky wheels, think of them task dependent, and perhaps they are not falling into the low categories in other areas of the chapter life, which would be really cool if you could get everybody at least pushed towards center or beyond. They need to be convinced there's something in it for them. Okay. So the next one we're going to look at is still low on willingness, very high in skill. What's it like to have people in this quadrant? And what are your experiences with people who operate here? So that's for chat. I would say my first answer is absolutely frustrating to have people who know how to do it and are not willing. Chat, anybody? These may be people who have performed excellently in the past. Okay, I've tried to break down the task: lazy, fear, failure. Okay. They understand the history, they have the experience, but they're no longer willing to operate at the same level. Now, it may be they don't want to operate on this specific task, or it may be that they're burned out. Now, it may be burned out on this task, or it may be burned out from being in charge. Maybe too busy, tasks are beneath them. They can also be people who lack a certain amount of humility. They have big egos. Because their expectations are not being met, they withdraw their services. This is a tough one. And this is really a difficult personality to deal with. Can you identify people in your chapter, no names, that are in this quadrant? And how would you describe them in your experience? I'll start with frustrating, challenging. PIA. I don't know what that means. Thank you. Okay. I'm willing to listen to other ideas. Prima donna. Okay. Remember, this is task specific we're talking about here. So hopefully most of these people are that way only with specific tasks and not overall personalities. Okay, the next one is the eager Eddies or Annies. I spelled Annie wrong. Sorry about that. Low skills, but high willingness. They are eager to help. They are eager to shine. They are eager to learn. What's it like to have people in this quadrant? What's your experience with people who operate here? You're coachable, yes. Like a dog with a bone. Anybody else? Can't give them full responsibility. They need direction, a lot of direction. All right. So the fourth can be a real asset. That's absolutely true. And if you need help, it might be the first place you look if you're in charge of something, because they want to learn, they want to help, need co-leader. The fourth category is when you're high, both on skills and willingness. These are your top performers. These are your top guns. What's it like to have people in this quadrant? What's been your experience when you have several members in this quadrant of high skills and high willingness? Evan, absolutely. Can actually delegate to them. Tend to do everything, no worries. I'm going to go back to Steve's item, tend to do everything. And I can't see your hands because of my screen. I would love to know, but take a personal assessment. How many have a board of directors that has the same people in it year after year after year? And does it serve you well? Or is that something you need to look at to change? Because board of directors is one of the items on here, finding people to sit on the board for you. Okay, chapters can't thrive without top guns. They're not going to go anywhere at all. So what we're going to do, now that we've identified these categories, how do we lead them? That was an interesting comment. Micro changes occur. Okay. So how do we lead a squeaky wheel? The key to leading this group is to manage real expectations, real being underlined. Also, you need to limit how much energy do you invest as a leader to push or pull those expectations. Be highly directive and cut back on the relationship. Tell them what to do. Anybody have any questions about this roll up of how to manage these people? I'm watching my chat to see if anything comes across. I don't see anything. So pretty much in unison, in agreement that someone low on energy and low on willingness, stroke them. Okay. I'm not saying don't talk to them. And a lot of us start there whenever we start a new project. So sometimes many of your brand new members will find themselves in this category. Hopefully you're not hearing a lot of, well, when I lived in California, we did it this way, because that's a very difficult situation to be in. And a lot of new people default to their history for some sense of understanding of what they've walked into. But hopefully there aren't too many in your course. And if there are, they don't stay in this quadrant long, or it's very specific to a new task or something they just don't want to get involved in. As long as you understand, again, it's task driven, look for something that they're not squeaky wheels about in the task. Appeal to their, we need your assistance, okay? So the next one is pufferfish. To lead these people, you need to question them and help them reset their expectations to align more with the whole group. You may also have to negotiate their attendance and involvement in the chapter. You may help define a role that fits their chapter approach. Be highly directive and build a relationship. Show them. You have to appeal to the egos. I think what Dave just said, appeal to the, we need your assistance. If they are high on skill on this item, it may be that they're frustrated because whatever task they're working on is not getting done well enough to their expectations, and you'd really like their help. Sometimes it's hard, sometimes it is burnout, sometimes it's just lack of time, but it's certainly worth asking and finding out what the issue is, why they don't want to get involved, and seeing if they can help you out somehow. Sometimes they think they have the skill, but cannot relate to anyone. I'm sure you have somebody in your chapter, Bruce, that is pretty good at relationships and may be able to help out. This doesn't mean that you personally or the chapter president is the one that has to jump in every single time. When you start looking at goals and tasks, you may find the perfect person to be the one that talks to each of these categories to get them to help if you need their help on this topic. The next one, back to the eager Eddies and Annies. To lead these people, take advantage of their willingness to learn. Teach them, train them, let them shadow other experts to learn the skills. Give them opportunities to learn and be included. Encourage participation. These are your most eager people in the chorus. They're sponges. They just want to help, and they are high on this willingness, and they just lack skills. So they lack the training. And if you can get them involved with whatever they're good at, they might be your best cheerleader out there. The fourth category, your top guns. Inspire them. They're listening. These people get it. They understand the fundamentals of the chapter and align with its goals and mission. Now, according to Chuck Green, I did not write this, understand. It's right in the write-up. The best situation for your chapter to be in is to seek, develop, and enhance the skills and talents of each member to such an extent that progress seems limitless. I'm going to read that again. You want to seek, develop, and enhance the skills and talents of each member to such an extent that progress seems limitless. If you keep growing and individuals keep learning, imagine the top right corner of this just keeps getting pushed out, and it keeps getting pushed up to the right, so that people get higher with their expectations and their willingness and their skills, and everybody kind of moves. And I will show you something a little later. I don't know how I'm going to do it on Zoom though. So the balance in the chapter, the best proportion, and this is a scientific report, is to have 85% on the right-hand side of this graph on any project. High willingness, with more in the high skills category, of course. The expectation is that there will be 15% in the low willingness side. Your leadership skills demand that you lead these quadrants appropriately without causing drag, and that's in quotes, on your chapter's progress. You can access any chapter member for any task using the skills and willingness chart. This tool will increase your understanding of the best candidates. Be courageous. Don't accept unwilling candidates. Only accept those willing to be the best in their position. Isn't that a challenge?
Bev, can I ask a question, please?
Absolutely.
There's a good friend who almost left the chapter because he was shot down. The old saying, for every idea, there's an equal and opposite criticism. And how do you deal with that? Where do you have the people that are either unwilling or they don't like the idea and they just take aim and let fly with really hateful comments and critiques?
Any comments on that? You know, I will go back to social skills and chapter culture. That shouldn't be allowed. Whoever does that should be spoken to, that's not the way the chapter operates. That's not how you want to be. That's not who you want to be. Go look at your social skills and see if you can bring them along. Find out why they're upset or why, assuming, was it an isolated incident or is that just their general demeanor?
Well, I don't know, and it could be even done through email, and nobody else is even aware of what's going on. But the situation was very dark and uncalled for, but nothing was done about it, and we almost lost that person as a chapter member. Fortunately, he didn't leave.
Somebody has to address it.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody with comment? I think.
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I mean, you can only work so far with people like this, and sometimes it's better when they take themselves out of the mix, because there's just a lot of poison they could spread around if you let them continue.
Other comments?
I wonder if they're really addressing the same issue. If this other guy that's spreading a little bit of poison isn't solving a different problem.
That is true. You can ask him to restate the problem in his own words and ask him why there's an issue with it. And it is misunderstanding a lot of times. Not all the time, unfortunately.
Well, if I can comment, if you have a what do you call it now, chapter motto and the basis of your chapter, if this person is acting outside of that, well, then that's a real problem. But if he's trying to uphold the chapter motto, well, then, you know, it's a leadership thing, of course. We're talking leadership.
I think it's really important not just to model the behavior, but sometimes to talk about the correct behavior in a chapter. People take for granted either you're going to do things the way they would want things done, or everyone else is doing it that way, but that's not the right way or that's not required. If you keep your culture not in the rearview mirror, but ahead of you all the time, and you spend time making sure that everybody understands who you are and why you are, and in subtle ways. It doesn't have to be overt, but and like if you ask everybody for their 1-minute elevator speech about the course, that sometimes will tell you a lot about what people think about the course. But you know, it's a discovery. It's difficult, gosh. But the best thing I think you can do is ask somebody, why aren't you happy? Why are you here? If you're not happy, do you want to change things? And what would you like to change, and how would you like it done? And, you know, let's listen. Listen first, talk later. Anybody else? It's a good question. We've all been there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna stay off the screen for a little bit. What I want to do is use the chat, and I want you to come up with more ideas of what you might want to audit in your chapter. We talked about some already: ticket sales, fundraising, learning notes and words, learning choreo, approach people for membership, find a new assistant director or section leaders to train. Look at innovative activities for rehearsals once we get out of this, or even during Zoom, during this COVID time where we're doing everything by Zoom. I would like some extra ideas here. And you can speak or chat. Chapter marketing. Member mentoring. PR. So we'll put that with chapter marketing. Social media, those all come under. How about asking members about their skills so they can be used for the best? Fundraising development, soliciting ads from businesses. Okay, fundraising again. Backups, study what other leaders do. I'd like to know what time each member is willing to give beyond learning the words and notes and attending rehearsals. Long range goals. Develop chapter inventory of what you do on the outside of the course. Interesting. Ask members what you would like to do. Okay. Anybody else? Turn some pages here. Normally these would be on a flip chart. I don't have a flip chart. I mean, I do, but it would be too hard to manage with this. So the membership audit's one of the steps in a succession plan where you frankly assess a person's skill and willingness to perform a job. So besides these ideas, also remember that if it comes down to, we really need a new secretary, let's look at how willing and how able these people are to be secretaries. And that may come to attendance. It may come to ability to take notes and talk at the same time, or the ability or the desire not to have to be in every discussion, so they're willing to take notes as a secretary. Secretaries also have an awful lot of responsibilities in the district because they are the communicators to the chapters. So nobody else wants the job. Ask members what you would like to do, or that nobody else wants the job. I don't quite understand that. David?
Well, so many chapters have the same people from year to year. Presidents, secretaries, treasurers, and the reason they are this year's president, secretary, or treasurer is because nobody else wants the job. And it's for all the wrong reasons. And this gets back to your class and the talk that we had on influencing chapter culture, is that line, that lineage just is the recipe for, I don't know, nothing changing. But I think it's something that that a lot of chapters, I won't say most, but a lot of chapters have to deal with reduced membership. It's difficult to find people that are willing to step forward and change and or to begin change.
One observation I have on that, and this applies especially to a structure where there's a chorus and not an overarching chapter, or the chorus is the chapter, is that people don't have any idea what the board of directors does, so that they don't want to be a secretary, they don't want to be a treasurer. Of course, that's a little different because that's so technical, but you know, maybe they know what the director does, they know what the VP of music does, maybe. They probably know what the president does because once in a while he says a few things. But there's a lot of chapters out there who really, David's laughing, I don't know who else is laughing, there's a lot of chapters out there where they have no clue what the board does, how many hours they spend, because it's invisible, and that's not right. That won't get you new members to the board of directors unless you're getting members from old chapters board of directors, or they really want to change things, so they want to sit on the board. So, I would suggest to you that you are much more open in what your board is doing, whether it's a monthly 10 minutes at a meeting saying, oh, the board got together, we're in the middle of discussion, we need your feedback, or having a board meeting in 2 weeks, please come. Whatever it is, especially for getting new people on the board, they need to know, they need to be involved, but they need also to be very aware. So the involvement is something that you control as a leader, because instead of always doing it yourself, because it's faster and easier, and it may very well be faster and easier, imagine the day when you're not going to want to do it, or you're not going to be around to do it, and somebody's going to have to pick up after you and get it done. It's always a good idea to have backup.
Ken, did you have your hand up?
I did, David. I'm not sure if this is appropriate or not, but last year I was asked to be the chapter president, and I'd never done anything like that before, but I've been in business for many years, so I figured, well, it can't be all that hard. I knew a lot of the members in the chorus already, because I'd been performing with them for the last 2 or 3 years. By the end of January, I had a succession plan because I got to know every single one of those members in that chapter. Now, I didn't know all of their capabilities, but I knew who they were, and I got an idea. So I think that's the first thing, is you got to get to know the people you're working with first. And as a result, for next year's administration, I'm bringing 3 new board members on in key jobs, because, you know, I identified them back in January and I worked on them. I had all year to work on them. And, you know, but to me, the key was getting to know each and every one of those members and what they wanted, why they came every Tuesday night.
Good point.
Can I ask you, Ken, how many active members are we talking about here?
We have a performing chorus of 40 members.
Okay.
That's with snowbirds. We have this problem down here in Sarasota that the snowbirds desert us, and they're going to be a long time coming back, because Florida has been awful as far as infection rates.
They all come to Asheville for the summer, I can tell you that.
Oh,
They're called halfbacks.
okay. I'm sorry.
Ed.
We're going to get into breakout.
Ed, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I have a question for Ken. And actually, I had a question that was a little bit, goes beyond him. But my question to him is, when you were asked to be president, how did that make you feel?
Well, that's a good question. It made me, first of all, feel I got no business being president. Okay, well, what happened was the chorus didn't have a quartet program, and I'm a quartet singer, okay?
Okay.
This is my second go around with Sarasota. I took a hiatus. So when I came back, there was no quartet program. So I made a pitch to the board to start a quartet program. Well, what that resulted in, because I opened my mouth at the wrong time, they said, well, you'd be a good president.
Okay. Well,
But what I said to myself was, I couldn't think of a good reason to say no.
okay. And that's sort of part of my thinking about all of this and trying to identify people to serve on any kind of board, is to create a culture in a chapter or something where, you know, if somebody were to ask to fill a certain position on the board, maybe that person would feel honored that he was even considered for the job.
Mhm.
And other than the fact that a lot of times, somebody asks you to do a job and you say, oh gosh, you can't find anybody else, or we're just looking for a warm body, so to speak, or whatever. But how do you create a culture where if somebody were to come up to me and say, hey, we'd like you to be vice president, or we'd like you to be secretary or something, and the board is so entrenched that you look at them and you see that they're functioning boards, that, wow, I could be a part of that. I'm honored that you asked me. Yes, I would be willing to do what I can, and I think that's sort of a key. But I don't know how do you develop that within a chapter where people are actually clamoring to take leadership roles.
I think they have to be very aware of what the board does. Again, they've got to know what the possibilities are. They've got to see that the board is willing to listen to new ideas and have discussions and open up to the course. You can't do it locked in a room every month. There's chapters now that haven't had board meetings this entire COVID because they think there's nothing to talk about, whereas this is your planning time. This is, perfect time for listening to your members. And yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Bev, I agree with you completely, because right now, my board is planning and executing the things that we absolutely need to do when we can sing together again. Primarily raising awareness of our communities as to who we are. In this particular chapter, this has always been a problem. We're the oldest singing organization in 3 counties, over 70 years strong, and we're the best kept secret. Nobody knows who we are. So this is the time that I've put together a group of people who are out there making contact with people right now, because we got the time. When we're singing, we have no time. So this is absolutely the time to get all that stuff done.
We're going to come back to a discussion right now. I'm going to take you to, and I want you, there will be probably 4 or 5, maybe 4 or 5, either one.
Say that again, Bev, sorry.
Go to 4 breakout rooms. So you'll have approximately 5 people in your 5 to 6 people. And what I want you to do is pick a topic and collectively pick a topic, pick your spokesperson, and in your head, talk about how you would rank people in each of the 4 quadrants. I'm going to put the 4 quadrants back up on your screen. It's actually the last page of your handout. Excuse me, if you happen to have your handout with you, it's that same graph. And I want you to choose from one of these. How to figure out how to best teach your chapter to learn the notes and words. Do choreo well. Increase your marketing and awareness in the community. Maybe find a new assistant director. Pick one of those, or pick something else that is near and dear to the spokesperson's heart that they just want to talk about. And what I want you to do is discuss about how the characteristics of some of the people and what you could do to get them from the lower left quadrant to the upper right quadrant. We're going to take 12 minutes, and I'll see you back here at 8 o'clock or just right before 8. We're going to go over. I know we have this scheduled till 8:15. We're going to go over past 8 because we're going to discuss this and talk about a few other things. So if you would please go to your breakout rooms. Thank you. See you soon.
Go, everybody.
I think we're back.
Yep.
Okay, so one of the things I want to mention is that, hang on a second. Try to share screen again. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Oh.
There we go.
What do you see?
We see your full screen with your PowerPoint.
Okay, good. So
There we go.
one of the things I want you to look at is this grid. And we're going to go back to each of you. I'm going to have each of you talk about where you were. But this is, let's say you were sitting down and asking a chapter, or you were analyzing, a couple of you were talking about how to get the right board member in the right position. So let's just assume that we're talking about, on this graph, who would be a great, assistant director. Let's say you have a real powerful chapter. And not that they would necessarily become an assistant, but they have all the skills and enthusiasm to be the perfect chapter member because they're that skilled and they're that willing to be that good that they find themselves in the top right quadrant. So imagine this, and you can see the distribution, whatever topic they decided to chart here on this. There's a whole lot of people that are high willingness and high skill. There are a good percentage of people that are high willingness but need to be taught. We need to teach them so they can move up. You look at the left, top left, they are low on willingness but high on skills. They know what they're doing. They just don't feel like or can't work on it at this point. The bottom, and the bottom is low willingness and low skills. You can see that about 85% of this chart is off to the right. Now imagine this chart, and this, they did it by parts here. Imagine this chart, and everybody finds themselves moved up a little bit, so that in the bottom left quadrant, there's only 2 numbers left. And in the top left quadrant, there's only 3 numbers left. And in the bottom right, there might be still 10. What you do, and I don't know if you can, you're not going to be, you have to imagine this in your head. Move the vertical, the skill, to the right by a quarter of the chart. And move the willingness up on the chart by a quarter of the chart. So now if you look at the chart, let's say the intersection is somewhere around number 73. If you can see that in your top right chart, about a quarter of the way in, you see 73. Imagine the crosshairs right there. All of a sudden, you have more people in the less willing and more people in the less skilled area. So as you're still working to make your chapter better with whatever topic you've chosen, just because you think everybody is up there doesn't mean you've reached the ultimate. You just push it up further to the right, higher, and now work on the people that are still falling behind or very close to the center. And you can continue to grow this idea as far as you want to go with it. Seek, develop, use, and enhance the skills and talents of every member until progress seems limitless. Now, any questions on that?
Except you didn't move 16 or 66, those dumb baritones that are still bottom left.
Thank you, Dawn.
Yeah, that's my baritone.
Question for what are the percentages in the corners of the graph? There's 5% in the upper left, 25% upper right.
I don't know why the bottom says 40% because that's not right. I have no idea what those numbers are.
Okay.
And you still said, didn't you, Bev, that 80%, you would love to find 80% of the total numbers to the right of the vertical bar.
85%, yeah.
Yep.
And you know what? I never noticed that before. I have no idea what those numbers stand for. Ooh, I guess I better contact Rob and find out. Dawn, do you have any idea?
No, I don't. But I tell you, if it's done in a very open, these kind of discovery things, Bev could probably do another class on chapter retreats, open idea, no idea is bad kind of thing. So the squeaky wheel can throw out a good idea and nobody will say boo-boo. And these kind of things, just an awareness of what your fellow chapter members, not only what part do they sing, but what's their interest and what's their outside capabilities and how do those skills relate to the chapter itself. Part of the self-discovery of what the chapter is all about, this quadrants really highlight some of those. And I think this chart's really, really revealing. I mean, you can read so much into that.
And remember, you're charting, in this case, it might be how well they know their notes and words, being that they have it broken out by part. But imagine doing this for looking for your next show chairman or looking for your chapter a chapter person or a marketing person. Now these numbers are, every chart's going to look totally different, but if you skill level every member for whatever it is you're desperate to know, it really tells you. And then knowing that, and in this case, they use numbers, they numbered their members so that anybody looking at the chart would not know who the specific person was, rather than using a person's name. That's why there's numbers on this chart. So whoever number 46 is and 54 at the very top right, knowing the topic, you might be able to guess, but you're not going to be able to guess them all. So I've had our chapter sit down and look at this chart in a couple different ways to say, why are we so frustrated with choreography? Why can't some of our members just get it? Sit down and chart your chorus by part in choreography, figure out where your weak spots are and how you can teach them, how you can manage their expectations, what you need to do for them and with them, and how to encourage them to move everybody up to the right so that you're not just standing still, whatever the topic is. I would like to go out of this and open it back up to the floor, and each of the groups, the breakout groups, let me know. And we'll start with group number 1. What topic we got about, 3-4 minutes per at the most. What topic you worked on and what you decided would be the best plan. Group 1?
Bev, I think that was our group.
Okay.
And I was elected chairperson. I didn't want it, but they gave it to me anyway. And we decided to tackle marketing and how to market a chapter. And we decided to look at, first of all, we thought it was important to identify exactly what we were marketing. So we had to have a very fine sense of what the chapter was or what we were trying to be. So we had something to market. And then in order to identify people, I thought it'd be, first thing we needed to do was to really define the tasks and the outcomes of whatever person we wanted to do marketing for our chapter. And once that person was identified, in order to move them along, try to give them some good examples to follow, and also something other members of the chapter to help them get along with that. Another good idea that came up was that in an area like marketing, for example, this chapter, and where is she? There she is, Prem Neef suggested, and this is something that works for her chapter. She's a Sweet Adeline, and their chapter has made it a responsibility of everybody in the chapter to serve as an ambassador and a marketer for that chapter. And they have people who are heading up marketing that make sure that all the members have flyers and handouts. So whenever they give a performance or wherever they need to market something, these things go out and all the members take role in that. And I think that was a great idea to create a culture where everybody's a marketer, and based on their successes and the individual successes in that chapter, you can probably identify the next couple of people who might move up and take on the responsibility of overseeing all the marketing. So I think that's pretty much what we talked about.
Thank you. Questions for Edward? Okay, group 2.
That was our group. We had 3 people there plus me, but one that was unable to hear us, and we were unable to hear him. So between what we had trouble with was getting out of the starting block. That it's difficult to take that first step for any kind of evaluation process. How difficult it is for one chapter and even more difficult for another. And a lot has to do with active membership. One of the fellows in my group had 40 people that were active. The other group was 12 to 15 people. And it's very difficult for those smaller groups to take that first step to even start an evaluation process. That and I said jokingly, in these smaller choruses, everybody that's active is a member of the leadership team, either music team or board or something. Everybody's involved already. And so it's difficult to pick something new or something different out of that well-entrenched group. So I guess that's about all we had to say, that it's difficult for some groups to even take that first step forward to do any kind of evaluation process that we're talking about here.
Suggestions? You know, if you're the only one in your course that wants to do this, and just do it for whatever topic you want, see what you come up with, and then take it to the appropriate person. There's nothing wrong with that. Group 3. Oh, Edward, did you have something to say? No. Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say for those smaller groups, something crossed my mind. There's got to be a reason, you know, a fairly strong reason why those smaller groups stay together. And maybe that's the hook, that they need to realize what that is and try to, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, market that or develop that and sell that. Yeah, granted, they don't have all the bodies they need to handle every job that needs to be done. But there is something that draws these guys together on a weekly basis. And whatever that is, that's what they need to hook on to and develop.
I'm out here in Kansas, and David's let me come in. You can see CSE, that's Central States, not NED. And I have lots of rural chapters in my district. And when I go and talk to their leaders, I said, how many times do you perform? Well, you know, we do our annual show, and we have 150 of our people that are mostly family members, and we have 300 extra seats in the school auditorium and that kind of stuff. And I said, what's to prevent you from going out and doing a free show in the community every single month? And you earn the title of the best damn chorus in our county. And if you're like most of those rural areas, you've got people in there from 6 or 7 counties that drive 50 miles or 30 miles just for the enjoyment of singing. There's a PR opportunity there for you to go and sing in their hometown and come up with the press release that says, David Patterson is bringing his chorus to our community. Let's come out and hear the guys, and we'll take a love offering. You know, that kind of thing. And let the guys be very involved in doing what they like with the same 8 songs, and, you know, maybe not learn too many more, you know. Get them more involved in the community and more performances when we get through this little era in our lives.
Thanks, Don. Move to group 3 now, please.
Okay. That would be me, and Don was in our group and uttered the first words nominating me to be the speaker, and I felt this was the wrong session to be unwilling, so I guess that's me. So we chose learning notes and music, and which is kind of dear to my heart because I am a chorus director, and so that's always a struggle for everything. You had the word inspire up in the Top Gun quadrant, but we talked a lot about using inspire and engagement to move people along the willingness track. They could be in the lower level, but to move them along that spectrum of willingness. And the way we talked about doing that was to involve them in the process and decision making. We talked about learning interpretation in the story of a song before you even learn the notes and words. So you get them bought into it and they were part of that process, then they become more willing. Because we talked about an example that I had the last song we learned before COVID, I had people come up and say we would never learn it. It was too hard. We weren't going to do it. But we moved them along by breaking it into chunks, learning that, getting them involved in how we were going to interpret the story, and interpreting it as we learned notes and music. So it wasn't learn the notes and music and then throw in the interpreters. You can't sing it the wrong way, interpretation-wise, even though you're just learning notes and music. So they buy into the story, they buy into the process, and therefore you move that willingness spectrum along for notes and music. And then skill-wise, we talked about, I'm sure almost everybody uses learning tracks, and that's great. We use learning tracks all the time too. We also use, when available, recordings of, say, international level quartets singing that song. And in some cases we learn that, we use that to show different interpretations of potentially that same song that we're learning. Like there might be 2 or 3, and then we can choose the pieces of each that we like. And I played that every night for weeks and weeks and weeks, along with the learning tracks and the, and then to part of the inspire, but also skill part, increasing skill. We, in addition to learning tracks, we have a teaching quartet. And that teaching quartet can show them that, no, it's not too hard. Here's 4 of our members that can sing this song, and you can do it too. And then we always have a quartet time after the break. So I would always challenge them to have 4 guys come up and sing that new song in front of the other guys. And then they see other guys that can do it. Yeah, it's not perfect, but they can see the improvement from week to week to week. So I think the inspiring and engagement moves them along that willingness spectrum. Some of the teaching techniques, but also inspire and engagement can move them up the skill spectrum.
That's interesting. You're doing it in a group session instead of a single person, which we hadn't really talked about that, but that's very effective, especially for that topic. Good job.
Well, notes and music, I think, can be, they learn better in a group for the most part.
Okay. Thank you. Group 4?
We're here.
Yeah.
Okay. We chose marketing because everybody in the group seemed to have an interesting story about it. And while we didn't discuss too much about the process of moving people and developing people, it was really mostly the personal experience and how you find people like that. One of the things that we identified was that you need to have a history of people's individual skills. I think Jill mentioned that identifying what everybody was capable of was a good place to start. There was also the idea that with a bunch of engineers, you need somebody with a little bit of salesmanship skills to take on a position like marketing. Although I'm an engineer, I taught myself how to market things, so it's not impossible. It can be done. And getting more information on members. The other couple of things we talked about were you have to be able to identify opportunities. In other words, if there's an opportunity to do something within that will move your chapter along a particular road, the leadership needs to be able to identify those opportunities, and then based on their understanding of the individuals with their skills, identify the right people. The other thing that somebody pointed out, forgive me, I don't remember, it might have been Jill again, that taking on a new role that you're not necessarily the most comfortable with, the satisfaction from learning from this new role, I think, is something that leadership can use as an opportunity to promote this to other people. In other words, pointing at somebody that said, well, I didn't think I could do that job, but I learned how, and I feel real good about it because I learned something that I never knew how to do before. So that was basically it. No other conclusions other than the fact you need to know the people. And I think somebody earlier mentioned it, and I think I mentioned it too. You need to know why these people come to that rehearsal every night, because everybody's got their own idea of why they come.
Excellent. I would say that use this idea, this module or this action plan, before you go into a goal setting session. It's really easy to set goals, pie in the sky or not, but to know your membership, and this kind of tells you what the journey might be like and what efforts it's going to take to get you to your goal, not just saying, well, we think we need 15 people to buy into this. Sit down and take a look and see how it works. That's all I've got. We are way over time limit. And next week, is that right? We'll be back, David, with a leadership? Is it next week?
No, we have 2 weeks off.
We skipped. Okay.
The next 2 Sundays, observing Jewish holidays.
That's right.
Be back on October 4th. I'll be teaching a class called The Principles of Leadership. And so you could finish up here.
It's a wonderful class. I thank you all. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, because I think it's just cool. We can actually sit down and figure out why we're having difficulties or why we're being so successful, because we can look at the membership and say, oh, yeah, they got it, or they didn't, or boy, do we need to do some work. So,
Can I ask one question? Prim, before you get off, David has just been stellar on setting these things up, and Bev and others leading it. Do the regional management teams and Sweet Adelines grab folks that want to listen and have discussions and little webinars like this on similar topics?
We have a regional Zoom meeting where the whole region is invited on a regular basis, every 2 weeks or once a month. I am spending more time on the NED classes than I am in the Sweet Adelines, really, because I want a different perspective. We also have Zoom chats with Renee Porzel from Chicago with our judges, you know, expression judge, music judge. And these Zoom chats are wonderful, because then for a good 17 to 20 minutes, they tell us why they became a judge, what exactly they're looking for when they're judging. Because we have a different system when the judging takes place. And we don't meet the judges, we just get these sheets on the 4 categories.
And sometimes you can read the comments.
Yes, but should we require further explanation, they're very willing to talk to us. But 9 times out of 10, that doesn't happen unless you're really that concerned, you know. But yeah, so it's a different way of doing things. But these Zoom chats that are happening on a regular basis, very educational, and the region keeps having all these things as well. They're open to answer your question.
Thank you very much.
was that a wave, Stephen? That was a wave. Right. We see you all on October 4th. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much, and enjoy the nice cool weather.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, nice seeing you. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Yep. I can't.